Welcome to the business course. I am Roger, and we will be spending the next 8 weeks together to put your ideas into a smooth business plan and a strong presentation so you can go in front of people with money at the contest to challenge them to give you money to make the world a better place. Let's get started. The whole point is put you through a business planning process, which is fairly rare. When you go into a corporate job, you won't really have the opportunity to examine a business because you would have to examine the opportunity through the perspective of an established organization. The business plan contest is special because it gives you an open-ended way to explore problems that may interest you personally and find the solution for that. This could just be an interesting MBA project for you, or this could be an opportunity for you to find out if you would like to be an entrepreneur, and these will give you the basic necessary discipline to do that. Let's go over the structure of the program. First, we are going to start a week with a video lesson package, contain multiple lessons and homework assignment that needs to be tackled this week. Then you, as a team, will have to figure out how the task is to be divided, and you're going to have to manage your own progress, your own deliverable, and I'll be here to support you through email. Lastly, at the end of the week, we will have a 1-hour group discussion. This is when all the group come together to talk about how much progress they made and what kind of problem to face. And then we are going to have a special one-on-one session. This is unique. One-on-one session is a half-hour discussion with me, one-on-one with one team. The team will be selected based on the best performance of the previous week. So if you perform well in 1 week in progressing through your assignment, I will pick 1 or 2 teams that show the most progress and spend time with them to guide them through this week or next week's project. So every team have a chance to win an extra half an hour of help from me if you want. If not, it's okay. In addition to these video conferences, we also have 4 one-day workshops. They're packaged fairly close together. It's basically 2 weekends at the beginning and near the end of the program where we will front load a lot of the critical tasks in business planning and spend more time polishing and doing the presentation. So this is the overall view of the course, and I look forward to helping you go through this process. When you look at the syllabus, the course divided into 3 different silos. The first silo is problem space. We want to make sure we pick a good problem to solve. What's a good problem? That will be defined later. So the first part of the course, we're figure out where the problem is. What part of the problem we're trying to solve. This should be specific, narrow, and reachable. The second part of the silo is the solution. This is where most startup has a wonderful grasp on what they want to do. Unfortunately, having a solution doesn't mean they understand the problem. The third silo is the business or the company. Your startup is not about the solution. The entirety of your company is the product and service. So we're going to spend majority of time understanding the problem. Understanding the problem gives us access to quite a few other parts of the business plan. It gives us access to the customer profile. So we understand who has the problem and how much they're willing to pay for. Once we understand the customer, we don't have to push the solution, and it makes the selling much easier. The space between the problem and the solution is called the solution market fit. This is where you figure out how well my solution fit the problem. The second part is when we're actually building the product. When you have a proposed solution, you need to figure out who you need to build this product. Are you the right people to solve this problem? So the first part, do we have the right problem to solve, and do we have the right solution? The second part of it is, we have a solution we know is right. Are we the right people to solve this problem? So the entire business plan covers the problem, the solution, and the company. We need all three parts to make a complete solution. And this is going to be the journey you're going to be on. This is going to be exciting because you get to find out. You're going to get to challenge every part of your business experience, from customer to solution, operation, logistic, financial, to HR management strategy, and you got to piece all these together. With this plan, I believe you can do almost anything you want professionally. Let's get started. I'm sure it was a wonderful surprise to know that your plan is worth nothing. No, that's not true. What is a business plan? A business plan is three different things in one. First is communication. Second, it's simulation. Lastly, it is instruction. So communication, simulation, instruction, which form the acronym CSI. CSI is also the acronym for Crime Scene Investigation, popular TV series. The similarity between CSI and business plan are they both are about hypothesis, and they're both about evidence. The difference between CSI and business plan is CSI seek to reconstruct the result with possible causes. So it's working backward from what happened to what probably happened. Business plan is about the future. They say, this is what we think is the problem, and these are some of the evidence we have gathered. This is the solution we think will work, and we have some evidence for that. So combining the problem and the possible solution, we think this will happen. So you're trying to experiment into the future, whereas CSI is trying to experiment about the cause. These are the things we keep in mind. First, communication. Business plan is an amazing tool to communicate within your own group. Each team member, when they conceive a concept, has a preconception. Putting stuff on paper helps people correct their point of view, their biases. The most value of a business plan is not getting funding. The most valuable part of the business plan is for the internal team to coordinate their action. It is impossible to overstate how important internal coordination is. You must have the same assumption, or you understand each other's assumption about the business. Everybody must be able to explain the business in the same way. Only after internal communication is achieved do you worry about external communication to the investor, to the customer, to the regulatory agencies? You have to internally be coherent before you can communicate effectively externally. So the business plan forces everybody to use the same language. Second, simulation. A business plan is a simulation about cause and effect. We run different scenarios, we run different variables, and we run different environmental factors. If your product or service is heavily regulated by government agencies, you have to simulate what happened when the regulatory environment changed, because your investor is going to ask, well, if the government changes the rule, and there are indications they might, what will you do? Simulation helps you think through these problems beforehand and formulate a scenario and a solution. Lastly, it is an instruction. Your business plan tells your potential investor, I want to go to the mountaintop. These are the steps I'm going to take. These are the paths we believe we will go through, and these are the obstacles we feel we'll face, and these are a solution. So your business plan does many things. CSI. Communicate internally, then externally. Simulate problem and condition, and instruction on what to do next. These are the reasons why we spend so much time crafting a business plan. From the beginning, this business plan course and contest is geared so there's a high number of VC and angel investor in the selection criteria of the judging panel. This means we are creating a fairly realistic demand. So your business plan must focus on being funded by angel investor or by VCs. So let's talk about what angel investor and VC are looking for, by starting with the difference between angel investor and venture capitalist. Angel investors come very, very early on in the life of a startup. These are people who are interested in helping out a startup because they like the environment of working with smart people. They are subject matter expert in this area. And sometimes they just have too much money and too much free time. Everybody gotta have a hobby. So what are angels looking for? Angel investors are really looking for people they like. And they want to get to know you, and they want to get to know your motivation. What is very important to them is the ability to connect with your mission. An angel investor who have no knowledge about medicine may invest in a startup that tackles heart attack because he or she the angel investor may have lost a dear family member to heart attack. These people are very cost driven, and even though the money they bring in isn't very huge, but they will invest with very loose criteria, long as they like you and they feel they're connected to your cause. So those are the easiest money to give up front. Venture capitalists typically coming later in the life of a startup. What they're looking for is very specific condition. They're looking to piss all over you. And that's not inaccurate, actually. The acronym is P-E-E. When they look at a startup, they're looking at profitability, the startup's ability to handle environment, and how in the world are they going to exit. Venture capitalists typically looking for fairly high rate of return in fairly short amount of time. So they have to look at the profitability. So if you're a social entrepreneur, this is significantly harder for you. You have to have a fairly good understanding of how you are going to make money with your startup. And you have to be able to demonstrate the realism of your profit loss scenario. Second, they're looking at the environment. They're looking at the environment on multiple levels. Mainly, they're looking at how are you different than the competition. They're looking at you if they're going to bet between you and another company doing this fairly similar thing. Who is much better positioned? We'll go into this a little bit later. And third, how is the venture capital going to exit? Are they going to keep you forever, just keep sharing the cash? Are you looking to raise fund the next 2 years, so when you get the next round of funding, they can exit? Or are you going to IPO, which they can just sell their share on the stock market? So that's what they're looking at. Very different things. Angel, they like you, they like your cause, they're probably in for a small amount. VC is significantly higher, and a lot of time they're really looking at the model you're working with. So when you're putting your business plan together, you have to understand which crowd you are going after. And it pays a lot of dividend to understand who the judges are and what perspective will they be looking at your business plan from. Good luck. Let's take a look at the business plan. Most business plans have 10 components, and this is the format and structure we will work with. Some business will require more, some will require less. We will make the adjustment as we move along, but 10 components are what we're looking at. The first component is the mission statement. This is where you tell the world what problem you're trying to solve. This tells the world what the world will be like after they use your product. Very powerful, very useful. I'm going to include some link right here so you can look at some of the famous mission statement. We're not going to focus too much on this first. Let's go through each component. These will not be written sequentially. Okay, the second component, description of your company and product or service. This is a fairly high-level description of who you are and what you're going to do. Third, this is where you guys need to do a lot of homework. You must describe how your product or service is different from the competitor. Most problems have multiple solutions, and to say that you don't have a competitor is going to be very difficult. So this is where to find out, okay, so you want to solve email, you want to solve the problem of email being horrible. You have a good team of technicians. How are you different from Google Mail? How are you different from Yahoo Mail? How are you different from Microsoft Outlook? This is where a lot of startups do not do their homework and they cannot clearly articulate their value. Okay. The fourth component is market analysis. This is where you really tell people what problem you're trying to solve. Who are the competitor? Where do you fit? And how big of the market can you get? This is where, if you're doing a replication of existing product or service, it's a lot easier because you have a lot of market data. If you're doing a fairly novel service, this gets very difficult. But there's a way to extrapolate. Okay. Fifth, describe your management team. This is a lot of time where a business plan competition gets really interesting. If I want to solve the problem of heart attack from a pharmaceutical point of view, it might be important for me to have a doctor on the team. If I want to solve the problem of overpopulation in South Africa, it might be good for me to have a sociologist on the team. So make sure what you propose to do is a fairly decent fit with the people on your team. Some solutions are not susceptible to hiring, okay? And 6, how do you plan to market your product or service? This shows how long it will take for you to make money. And this is kind of a big deal, okay? 7th, this is where you have to be honest. This requires analysis of your company's strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat, also known as SWOT. Everybody knows what that is. This analysis, the purpose is not for you to throw stuff up. The purpose is to convince the investor you're realistic about your chance of survival. If you don't understand your own SWOT, I'm not going to give you money. You got to be realistic about what you can do, what you cannot do, okay? Next is the cash flow statement. This is the heart of the business plan, because you're uniting narrative with number. This is the point where you're going to say, okay, we are going to have negative cash flow for the 6 months, but by month 7 we'll be positive, because you have to have a strong grasp about where the money is going to come from and how and when. Next one is a revenue projection. This is typically, revenue projection is about a year, 2 year out. It's basically guesswork from year 2, 3, and 4 after you have started up. 99% of the chance this is complete crapshoot. Don't worry about it. It's the investor understand that and they don't care too much. Lastly, most importantly, is the executive summary. This is how you're going to wrap everything, your entire 30, 40, 50 page business plan up in one paragraph. This often may be the only part of the business plan people will read. And we write this very, very last. That's it. It's not that hard. If you've done the research, you have a good team, about 4 or 5 people, I suspect you only need about an hour to maybe 3 a week to get this done. It's not hard. Focus is the key. Aren't you glad we had this talk? Let's talk about the tools we'll be working in this class. The first tool is something we use in Lean Startup quite often. It's called the Business Canvas. This is a very simple way for us to communicate our idea quickly. It's basically an outliner for business plans. So we will be delving down more deeply later. The second tool is going to be a Google Doc. Each team will be giving a Google Doc template, and each week you'll be filling out a specific section of the business plan. This is how we're going to work interactively. Each team will have its member access to Google Doc and paste stuff in. And I will be able to look into each team's document to make suggestions, to make comment as we iterate through this process. So having the ability to access Google Doc is going to be important. Third, we are going to use webinar at the beginning of for the discussion. The class lesson will be given as short videos, but webinar is where we're going to have an actual discussion. Depending on the number of team and the topic, we may do more than one session. Most likely it's going to be Google Hangout, but we have not decided on the final technology format, so be aware. And lastly, we're going to need a persistent place to hang out. This is a discussion environment for the people in the course to discuss concept and challenges they have this week. Most likely, it'll be a Facebook group or possibly a Google Hangout. We're experimenting with that. It's just fairly simple. It's all the wonderful technology. The announcement and the address will be given to by the course organizer in the very near future. Let's talk about the end product. What in the world will you produce, have to show for, put on your resume at the end of the course? Well, first, you will have a business plan, a completed documentation of your research, your discovery, your solution, and your plan. This is no surprise. Well, probably 20 to 30 pages. Second, you will have a pitch deck. This is a PowerPoint you can mail to potential investor and mentor to communicate your idea. This is about 10 to 25 page. This is about a 10 to 25 slide document that you can mail out to people. And this is usually how you engage with investor before you meet them. The third part will be presentation. This is where it gets to be a lot more fun. You will have to learn how to present your business plan in the following format. You will have 10 slides to cover all of your business plan. Second, you must develop an elevator pitch, a 15 to 30 second pitch you can give to someone to communicate the gist of your idea. And third, you must have a 10-sentence pitch that will completely communicate what you want to do, how you're going to make money, and if you're the right people for it. And lastly, you will have 3, 6, or 10-minute pitches. You can use as many slides as you want, but then these will give you the ability to present in any kind of environment. Depending on the final contest format, you may design a special pitch deck and presentation format for that. But just to iterate, at the end of the course, you will have a business plan. You will have an emailable pitch deck. You will have 4 presentations. First format is a 10-slide presentation. Second format is a 15 to 30 second elevator pitch. Third format is a 10-sentence pitch. And the last format is 3, 6, or 10-minute pitch. And you can use as many PowerPoint as you want. Now that the paperwork's out of the way, let's talk about what we really care about. As you're forming your team and dedicating the next 3 months to this project, I want you to think about 3P. These are the 3 qualities we look for when we form a team to tackle a problem. First, we talk about the problem. Is this problem something I'm interested in? And second is the passion. Am I passionate about this problem? Because you will encounter setback, disappointment, and you gotta be able to have passion to solve this. And thirdly, is this problem appropriate for the group of people I have assembled? If I need more expert, where can I find it? So the 3P, problem, passion, and people. Notice solution is not one of the criteria we look at. Because if your problem is well defined, there are going to be numerous solutions for it. And the entire process of entrepreneurship is about finding the right problem and tackle it with the right solution and experiment until that solution really solves the problem. So as you're gathering your group together, think about what problem you want to solve. Are you passionate about the problem? And are you guys the right group of people to solve it? These are going to be important at the very beginning of your project, but later on when you're pitching to investor and you're serious about getting this entrepreneurship started, investors are going to look at, are you guys the right people? Are you solving a significant problem? And do you have the passion to starve, to really endure some hardship to solve this? This is all going to matter. So let's get it right the first time. Let it start as we intend to finish. Let's tackle the first homework assignment. Pick the right problem. Before we go into the specific problem to pick, let's review what we want. We have two different things we want to talk about. What is right for you and what is right for the venture capitalists. Because after all, this is a business plan contest where we need to go after venture capitalists. The problem is right for you when you have an enduring passion, an enduring interest, and the right qualification to solve this problem. This is not that difficult. Take example, if you want to solve the problem of communication, you have an interest in it, you're passionate about it, but you may not need to be qualified specifically. Say you want to program a better email system. You don't have to know how to program, because these are skills investors understand you can hire people to do. Like Airbnb, one of the better examples of a startup. Neither one of the founders were programmers, they were designers. You have to understand what you need to qualify. If you want to tackle the problem of healthcare, it behooves you to have somebody with healthcare experience on the team, like a doctor or a HMO manager or a medical billing specialist. Certain things require domain expertise. Some don't, some do. So understand what is the relevant factor for your problem. So make sure you're personally interested about the problem you're trying to solve, and in some cases you have the right qualification or somebody on your team does. Okay, so that's what the problem should make sense to you. The second filter we want to talk about is making sure the right problem is interesting to VC. Let's take two examples. Service for the blind and diabetes. Okay. As surgical procedure, nutrition, treatment gets better, the number of blind people in the world, in the developing country at least, are actually decreasing. Whereas diabetes is increasing. So as a venture capitalist, you're confronted with a device that helps blind people read street sign, which already exists, and a mobile app that helps people control their diabetes. Which one would you pick? You pick the one with the growing market, diabetes. Now, so that's the first one. Ideally, your problem should have a growing trend. Second, they're looking at exporting solution from one place to another. What they want is what's so-called large number of homogeneous market. This is where we go back to the previous example of the app for the blind and app for diabetes. Because of the industrial style food system, most countries in Asia will have similar diabetes problem like exists in America. So this is a large number of homogeneous market. If you can solve one problem, in theory, you can import it into other market. So growing trend, large number of homogeneous market. And third, does it fit human nature? Well, people accept this as an existing practice. And lastly, is the timing right? Some startups are so advanced that it takes 10 more years for the rest of the world to catch up. These are not venture capitalists' favorite. It's like trying to sell a phaser to the police department. It's too advanced. So make sure you have a personal interest in the problem and align your problem as much as possible with what the venture capitalists want. Now comes homework. I would encourage every member on the team to spend half an hour thinking about the problem they like to solve. As many problem statements as you can come up with, the better. Because as a team, you need to negotiate, you need to have a group consensus on the problem you want to tackle and understand in the next 10 weeks. So let's formulate a good problem statement. There are six things I would like to see in a problem statement. What is the problem? Who has the problem? What are the symptoms of the problem? When does this happen? Where does it happen at? And how big is the problem? You're not going to get all six. It's very rare all six conditions are fulfilled. But let's look at how much we can fulfill. Let's look at Dropbox. I think everybody has Dropbox. It's a popular enough example. The problem they're trying to solve is that file synchronization are too hard across different platforms. Dropbox was not the best service. It was not the fastest, but it was the easiest in this way.